Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming today. We've got some really special guests in the room with us, and what I'd like to do is to let Ben introduce himself and his family. I've had the pleasure of hearing Ben over the last couple of years in classrooms opposite my office, and in one class maybe that I had a little bit of interaction with, talking about a whole range of counselling, psychology and other various issues, and I didn't realise that Ben and his family had actually taught in a remote Aboriginal school in Australia and had some profoundly interesting experiences there as a family. So I thought what we'd do for this class is scale it back a little bit. This is not an academic discussion at all, but we're doing what Aboriginal people love to do when we're storying today, and Ben would like to share the story of his family's interaction in that school. So Ben, thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to you guys.
Thanks, Brad. As Brad said, my name is Ben, my wife Jess, and my three very nice, wonderful children, Chloe, Will and Charlie. I have invited, with Brad's permission, my family to come along because one, Jess taught in this community as well, and I'll let her explain a little bit more about that. So she'll be able to give a slightly different perspective than I will. And our experience, which is what it's all about, our experience at Karalundi, remote Aboriginal community in WA, has led us to understand that life happens in community and life happens and it revolves around family. And there are kids around everywhere all the time and things hardly ever go according to plan. And so we're going to give that a go today to see what happens as we share our story. So at the end of today, what I really hope is that through sharing our experience and our story of our short 4 years at Karalundi, that you guys will not only be able to recognise me as I walk around campus and maybe Jess, but that maybe you will be able to recognise some similar aspect from your life in our story. And I also hope that you might be able to gain some value from listening to my story, of our story. And that in doing so, hopefully, you'll be able to respect not only our experience, but that maybe you might gain some insight into respect for a different culture that maybe might inform your teaching. I will also just say this is the first time that either of us have shared our story about our time at Karalundi publicly. It's a pretty profound experience for us, and so over the last couple of weeks as I've been putting this together, it's been actually quite therapeutic for me to reprocess some of what happened to us out there. So, in true fashion, for you to understand my experience, you need to know a little bit about me. You need to know a little bit about my family and my history. So, my name's Ben. This is my mum and dad, Cal and Yvonne. My dad, well, both of them are teachers. Both of their parents are ministers and ministers' wives. And my grandfather on my dad's side actually was the minister responsible for holding the first Aboriginal camp at Karalundi when it first opened. This is my little brother, Javi. And that's me when I was younger. I started primary teaching back in 2002 and didn't finish. Decided to go travelling instead. Worked with young children in trailer park communities in the States for a couple of years and decided that I really want to continue working with at-risk people, young people particularly, so came back and studied outdoor ed. And my journey collided with Jess's, funnily enough, here at Avondale. So I'll pass over to Jess for a moment to share some of her story.
Hi. So I grew up in Adelaide. I'm the youngest of 6, a bit of a blended family, but so there was me, myself, my brother, and my sister that we lived at home together for a while. My other siblings didn't live with us. So yeah, that's all them. And when I was 17, my parents were sort of getting ready to get rid of our farm that we were living on. I wanted to travel around Australia, so I kind of got kicked out a little bit. And I moved to Sydney where my brother was and started early childhood in childcare. So I did my diploma and worked for a while, and then decided that working in childcare wasn't going to bring enough money to feed myself or a family. So I went and studied early childhood teaching here at Avondale and met Ben.
So Jess and I met here, dated for a while. Jess was graduating. I'd been teaching in the art direct department for a couple of years and was approached about starting an outdoor adventure therapy program at Carolina. That's what sparked interest, and I just got engaged to Jess, and so my response was I'd love to, but I'm not even going to consider it unless there's a job for Jess as well. To which they said, funnily enough, there is. So it was just the perfect mix for us. That's what took us out to Carolina. That was in 2010. Brief history of Carolina. So Carolina was started as a mission in 1950, just double check this, 1954. Yep, by the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and it operated as a boarding school for the Gascoyne, Murchison, Central Desert, Pilbara region of Western Australia, which I've got a map that will show up and you'll, in a minute, you'll see it's quite large. It was quite a successful school by all accounts, and very well regarded. In the early 70s, it's a change in government policy, and they just wanted to separate any church involvement in Aboriginal communities, and so they stopped funding it and shut down. Went to freehold land. Someone ran it as a farm stay for a few years, and then in the early 80s, a lot of the community that had been through Carolina in its mission days recognised that there was something different about Carolina that their kids weren't getting in community schools in their remote communities. And so they got together and they petitioned the government to reopen Carolina as a parent-controlled Aboriginal boarding school. So basically what that looks like is there is an association, membership, anyone can apply to become a member. Representatives of that membership body form an executive committee who then appoint administrators, principal, CEO, finance person, and that administration team employs staff to run the school and community. So it's kind of, it's a quasi-community. There, this fine looking fellow there, Mr. Wingo, he's one of the original students, and he was the chairman of the executive committee for quite a while. The parents got together, petitioned the government to reopen it, and they said, we want a place where our kids can come and they can walk and learn together with white people, because we really value the education that you provided for us, and we want a safe place for our kids to go to school and to learn where they don't have the impact of alcohol and violence in the community. So we went out. It was a great opportunity for Jess and I to go to Carolina. We were full of wonderful expectations. Jess as a brand new grad, me as someone with a little bit of outdoor experience, a bit of life experience, and I was ready to change all the kids that came to Carolina. We'd both travelled. we've both seen enough of the world to know that it wasn't going to be easy. We knew that it was going to be a different culture, but we both kind of thought, oh yeah, it's in Australia, they speak English. It's going to be different, but it's not going to be that different. We were fairly naive about that. Okay, so some of the physical environment, and highlight that it was remote, but it's not an isolated community. Okay, so we get out and there's just mines everywhere. That was one of the first things that shocked us. The size of the vehicles, some of the hazards that we regularly encountered. That's a flock of emus, just there if you can't tell. Regularly it flooded, and the lack of communication across such vast distances was pretty phenomenal. But Karalandi itself was quite an oasis. It's quite an oasis. It's Karalandi in the local dialect, means good clear water. There's a huge water supply that runs underneath Karalandi, and so Karalandi itself is actually really green. And when you see a map a little bit later, you'll see a river course. Okay, so that's Karalandi right there. About 60 k's south is Meekatharra, and about 150 k's east is Wiluna. It's about, I can't remember how many kilometres, but it's about 12 hours drive, is Warburton, which is on the border of the Western Australian and Northern Territory separation. Kalgoorlie down south, Perth, you can see there. Geraldton's 6 hours across to the coast. It's not showing up on the map. Carnarvon is about 6 hours if you drive inland, just straight through on dirt roads, otherwise about 8 hours around. Jigalong, which is north of Wiluna on the Canning Stock route, then further up to Nullagine. Port Hedland's 8 hours north. Perth, by the way, is about 7.5, 8 hours south. From Meeka all the way up to Broome is 15 hours. Another 3 hours to Fitzroy Crossing, another 2 or so hours to Halls Creek, and another 3 hours or so from there to Kununurra. So, those are the communities, towns where we regularly had kids coming from. So you can see that's pretty much spread across almost half of Australia, and it's still just within WA. Have you guys seen an Aboriginal map of Australia? Broken up into lots of different countries. Okay, so Manu, Awula, and Chapani. That's kind of the main traditional Karalandi catchment area, which is just that area, just there. So the kids that come to Karalandi, kids that traditionally came to Karalandi, kids from those communities, kids that come to Karalandi while we were there, typically are kids who are on the fringes of the education system. They're on the fringes of the justice system. So kind of Karalandi becomes a bit of a last chance before juvie. And or kids whose family members had been to Karalandi while it was there, and they've got some connection to Karalandi. Okay. Some of the local scenery. This is the actual site of Karalandi. You can see it's quite a good farm land. Big open plains, lots of water holes, which you'll see more of later, plenty of photos of water holes, and some beautiful features. Weather, really, really hot in summer. The first 40 days we were there didn't get below 40. During the day, it didn't drop below about 27 at night, which creates magnificent thunderstorms and magnificent hail and water. So we picked up one hail stone that's just the size of a golf ball. 4 times while we were there over the 4 years, it locked in. That stretch is 7 kilometres. And at the peak of this particular flood, that's, you can kind of make out there is a levee bank, you can see it there. That's between 1 and 2 metres high. This particular flood got so big that water broke through the levee, and that's classed as grade 2 whitewater rapids, and it was flowing like that for about 2 days across the bulk of a 7k stretch. So you can just imagine the volume of water that went through there.
And did you have your kayak there from your outdoor days?
I didn't. I sold my kayak before I went, but I did have to perform a rescue because a few of the kids decided this is a lot of fun. We're going to go swimming. And one boy, so there's the levee bank, and you can see, or you can make out just there. If you continue on, that's a fence, like a straight wire fence. And he was about, what was your name, sorry? Ellie. He was holding on to a sapling that was just sticking out of the water about this distance away from the fence, and had that sapling given way before I was able to get to him with a rope, he very well could have been pinned up against that fence. Underwater, you got 3 minutes at the most before he drowned. He was pretty lucky with that. After rain, the desert, which is not desolate and barren at all, absolutely blue, magnificent colour. Kids that come to Carolina, I've already said, mentioned some of the things about the kids that are regularly there. Biggest thing, one of the biggest shocks to us was the fact that Carolina regularly travels up to 1,500 kilometres each direction to collect kids and drop kids off at the beginning and end of each term. Saw kind of on that initial map how far apart everything is. Education, particularly whitefell education, is not at the top of their priority list. They like the idea, but really only so long as there's nothing better going on, which could be a festival, could be a footy carnival, could just be going to visit family somewhere else, could just be that they've had a really good day and there's, it's payday and there's chocolate and new chocolates. We would drive out to these communities and we'd regularly call up a week before, we're coming out, are you ready? Coming to collect the kids?
Day before.
Yeah, they call again the day before, yep, rightio, they're all ready, they're here, packed, waiting, they're keen. We get out there, no, we don't want to. So, they didn't get made to go to school. It was really their choice whether or not they went to school. And often they did, because Carolina, we tried to make it as fun as possible. But yeah, things didn't go according to plan all the time. And regularly, off dirt roads, things would get boggy. So here they are, they're all really excited to come to Carolina, most of them, when we arrive and rock up in the community. And
Is that you, Chloe?
that is Chloe. They often get on the bus with what they're wearing. Maybe a little plastic shopping bag with some clothes, and that's about it. No, hardly any of them have shoes. Pretty much because there's collective possession. I don't have my clothes, what we're wearing is our clothes. And the boarding school, the boys' dorm and girls' dorm had big cupboards full of clothes and they all just shared them all the time. Pretty diverse age ranges of kids. Some really little ones that Jess taught in class, which young.
Sorry, it was 3.
Sari was 3 when she first came to school. Up to, we had some 18-year-olds as well. Our typical school, you go through an enrolment process, maybe there's an interview. Carolina enrolment process, for a lot of the time we were there, it did improve a little bit towards the end. But rock up in the bus. Want to come to Carolina? Great, hop on. Did you let your mum know? We double checked. Yeah, mum knew, grandma knew, whoever was responsible for looking after that kid. And yeah, make sure we've got a current phone number. That's it. Came to Carolina for the term, or at least until they decided they needed to go home. Boarding school, so all of the kids over the age of 10 were required to be in the dorms unless they were under the direct care of someone who was living in the community of Carolina. So Carolina employed a whole lot of Indigenous staff members for varying roles across the community, and they would regularly have family members staying with them, sometimes even up to 15 to 20 people in a house. There were a number of young kids, as young as 6, that got special dispensation or permission to be in the dorms at a younger age because they were wards of the state or the Department of Child Protection in Western Australia. So each of the dorms has a big common room, individual bedrooms that never ever end up being individual, they always sleep together. Big shared dining facility that they all eat at. Meal times are a lot of fun. Some of the learning differences and the cultural differences that we experienced between our background and while we were living there. So I failed to mention at the beginning, I am prime candidate for middle class white boy of the year. I went to a private school. I had a very comfortable life. Loved helping people. I grew up in Melbourne. I went to Nunawading, which is one of the Adventist schools there. Lilydale was the other Adventist school when I went through. I think there was an Aboriginal boy that went to Lilydale. I didn't really know anyone Aboriginal. Had no idea at all, really. So part of my expectation, or part of our expectation when we went out, was that these kids, one, they probably wanted to learn, they wanted to come to school because it was going to be fun, and that if they didn't want to learn, they'd let us know about it. We were right on part of that. Let me just check. Okay, so as I mentioned, everything is really community. Collective possessions, closing the doors, and because they do everything in community, we would engage with them, we would relate with them, we'd invite them to come back to our house, we'd give them some chocolate, and so that became an expectation. Not because they were trying to manipulate us, but that's just how it was. And so a number of times we had kids just kind of into our house, which was one of the differences. Photo of all these kids here, they're all going out bush. We regularly went out bush for a break, for a rest from all the stress of being in the classroom. Now, this is the nurse, Nathan, climbing up a tree, and regularly we'd be driving out bush with the kids on the back of the trailer, or kids in a bus, or on the back of the ute. Guarantee that we were driving slowly. And the kids would, stop! And they'd jump off and race up to a tree. One of the kids had spotted in a tree, and I, for the life of me, can't see where it is on the photo, but it's some of these bush bananas, which when you open them up, are all stringy and seedy, and they kind of taste like sweet peas. Kids are exceptional at spotting things. Highlights that there is such a strong ability to learn through observation. That's one of the big differences. Like, we all learn through observation as well, but they sit back and take things a lot slower and a lot more relaxed and just observe. This young fella went out bush one day and under his shirt is just full of those bush banana cobblers, they call them. And collecting these prized possessions, I feel really proud. It's a matter of esteem for them to be able to spot something and go and collect it. Another regular delicacy is going up on a bunker. They call it, I can't get the R right, there's an R sound in there as well. And I've had kids jump out of bus windows because they've seen it go way past. I took the upper primary class on a camp to one of the local waterholes one day, and saw us go and run down a hole, and they went and they started digging it out. And I had the privilege to help pull it out. This one particular kid honoured me with the privilege of pulling it out and breaking its back legs so it didn't hold on. And I think it's the scariest thing I've ever done. So that's a prized possession right there, and you can see by the kids' faces that there is communal joy. It's a shared experience of collecting and celebrating together, which is a really big part of life. And if it's a really good day, you get a kangaroo. I apologise, I should have warned you. This is normal, though. We went to Jigalong for one pickup, hanging out in front of this one family's house with a big mob of kids. And you know the old wire spring beds, like they have at Adventist camps? There was half a cow cut up, just laying outside, flies all over it, blood dripping down like that, all the mangy dogs underneath licking at the blood. The other half of the cow was on the kitchen bench inside, all just cut up. And that's just normal. It's quite confronting for both of us. An image that we won't forget soon.
Are you vegetarian?
Yeah, I am. Not particularly for animal ethics reasons. I just grew up vegetarian. My parents are, and I can handle the taste of all the meat sitting in my stomach as well. So just the way they go about hygiene and very different to us. But yeah, particularly the communal celebration. I think that there is aspects of communal celebration that we do really well, but not nearly as well as what the Aboriginals do. This young fella is quite exceptional. His name is Solomon, and this is one of the only experiences, and I can't actually remember this, but seeing the photo triggers memories of Solomon. He's one of the only kids that I remember who wasn't, in their words, shamed about getting up the front. Now, you guys, I'm sure, have had to take tutes or do something like that, and it can be a bit nervous getting up the front of people. A lot of these Aboriginal kids take that to a whole new level. They don't look people in the eye. It's a sign of respect not to. They kind of just slide just past you. But the shame they have about getting up the front, about doing anything that puts them at the centre of attention, is really prohibitive. But Solomon was a really unique example. He didn't seem to have that. He was a little bit socially awkward and not really accepted by a lot of the other kids, and I think that helped him to step out of that shame a little bit. But yeah, he was very unique. So So, a few of the points that I jotted down that are differences between the way I understand that we learn and cultural differences. Everything is very collective and communal in Aboriginal culture. Everything is based on relationship. And I've got a story I'll share in a minute. Learning and meaning is shared through narrative and observation. For Aboriginal kids particularly, because whitefellow education's not the top priority, learning needs to be meaningful, practical and relevant. And I think that's true of all education. But because it's not top priority for them, if they don't understand how it makes sense or what the purpose or point is, they just won't do it. They'll just walk out of class. Just lie down on the floor. Just ignore you, particularly if they don't have a relationship. Language is very different to English. So a lot of the kids that we had, English was their second or third language. Jess will share in a minute that, some of the kids didn't even speak English when she first. And Aboriginal people have a slow, deep, contemplative learning, and it's very considered, and it's in stark contrast to the fast, rushed pace of life that we go about. And that created a lot of problems for me particularly. Here's this one story. So, go there, buddy. Thanks. So, I went to set up the Outdoor Ed program, the Adventure Therapy program, and I've started doing that for the first term, and then some staff members left, and so I took over half a load of PE, even though I'm not a PE teacher, as well as the Outdoor Ed stuff. I took over responsibility for after school and weekend activities, and because I just had a bit of spare time left, I helped out the dorm a little bit. And I didn't know that everything was based on relationship. Thought, yeah, rightio. I mean, I'm the dorm parent here, I'm in charge. These kids they will show me some respect and they'll do what I ask. And the first night that I slept over in the dorm, there'd be always two dorm parents on together with all the kids, and one of them would sleep over in a room, get the kids up in the morning. So I got up and I started going around the rooms, getting all the kids up, and they all got up except for this one boy. And he was really quiet, but just pretty much ignored me, and it was really annoying me. And trying to keep relationship going with the kids, and trying not to get too frustrated with him. Time to go. You've got to go to school, you've got to have breakfast. If you don't get up now, you're not going to have breakfast. Blanket over his head. Come on, you've got to have a shower before school, that's part of the rules, you know that. Still nothing. Okay. If you don't get up to have a shower now, I'll bring the shower to you. Still didn't get up, and so kind of tried to make it a bit of a joke and in jest. Got a little bit of water in a cup. Just dipped my fingers in it, flipped it on him. Still did nothing. And I've just got to get the other kids to school, to breakfast. So went back. He'd taken offence at that. And I understand. Yeah, sure. Understand why. He told some of his family, sisters, cousins, a lot of them were all related, and they got wild about it, that I disrespected this kid and he wasn't listening to me, and just came at me, split ifs, and I just was so taken aback by the language and the abuse that I was receiving, that I kind of just chuckled to myself as if I couldn't do anything else. I cried, it was just so shocking. And so they interpreted that I was laughing at them. And that then got back to the parents. And parents drove over 3 hours away, and the end result, I was in house lockdown. been there for about 2 months, I think. And it took the better part of 2 years to restore as much as I could. I still wouldn't say that my relationship with that family was exceptional, but we did repair to a working relationship. But it took the better part of 2 years, and which resulted in 2 years worth of lost connection, not just with that kid, but with his extended family. It was so much more difficult. So some of the different learning and cultural differences, how does that impact on being in the classroom? Now, because I wasn't in the classroom a lot, I was blessed that I was able to be outside a lot of the time, which made my role of teaching a whole lot easier. Jess, do you want to talk about being in the classroom a little bit?
Yeah, so I finished at Avondale, had all these units of work, and I thought I was really prepared to go to Currawundi. I'd done a few Stormco's, so I thought, I've worked with Aboriginals, and I thought it was all going to be fairly easy. I've always had a bit of a passion for helping kids that struggle at school, so that was always an interest to me, so I thought that it would be fine. And so I got over there, set up my classroom, and then the kids came into class, we started doing stuff, and then slowly realised that they couldn't actually understand what I was saying because English wasn't their first language, it was probably their third. So their traditional language was their first, and then like a broken English was their second, and then what I was speaking was third to them, so they really had no idea. And a lot of the concepts and stuff that we use when we're teaching, they didn't understand either. So for us, when we're teaching maths and counting and stuff, they don't even count in their language, really. So you couldn't do a direct translation. So for them, they'd say a big mob. So you're saying that there's 20 sheep in the paddock, they'd just say there's a big mob of sheep, or a little mob, so a lot of concepts were very foreign to them. Whereas for us, when children are starting school, they kind of have this basic sort of knowledge. So I had to really step back and work out what level they were at and what I was going to do. So after realised that the English was an issue, also realised that they couldn't really hear me because they have so many chronic ear infections that their eardrums are just burst. So I was probably spent the first 6 months there organising to get surgery for them all, to have grommets put in. So it's not just let's just go to the hospital and see the specialist. The specialist has to come up from Perth to see them, and then we have to take them to Geraldton, which was 6 hours away, for surgery. So I went on the bus, I'm not a nurse, but I went on the bus with them to Geraldton, stayed in the hospital overnight with them because they didn't have family. That's pretty scary for them to be going to hospital to have surgery when they're from these really remote communities. I noticed a huge difference in the classroom after that because they could hear me. The other issue is, don't know whether you guys have sort of looked into it yet, but the fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. So 99% of the students in my class had this. It's not something that is diagnosed by a doctor, so there's no funding for it. So for me to try and get some extra help in the classroom was impossible really to start with, until I worked out that I could get a speech therapist in to assess them, to say that they had delayed speech, and so I could get funding that way. So all this was on top of my teaching. So there was a lot involved in the first year of me just trying to sort out how I was going to even start teaching. And then, they all require a lot of one-on-one. So I do my classroom set up for them to have free play, because that's a really good way of them learning, particularly language skills. And maths, cooking in the little kitchen. They'd be using a lot of maths and literacy for that. So I had a really good teacher's aide who was the grandma of a lot of the students. Yeah, that's Joan. And so she would do the interacting with the kids, help them with their English because she could speak their traditional language as well. And then I would take one student at a time and do explicit teaching with them. Yes, that's sort of how the day ran. Yeah, the morning was English and maths, and then the afternoon was integrated. And that was just lots of play, lots of hands-on, lots of outside, because sitting at a desk was very foreign to them. Almost everything needed to be lots of hands-on and through play. Otherwise, yeah, they would just walk out of class. And the first few weeks that I was there, because they couldn't hear me or understand what I was saying, there was lots of chairs thrown, tantrums, walking out of class, and yeah, it was quite confronting to start with. But yeah, after I built a relationship with them and the teacher's aide and sorted out some of those initial issues, yeah, it was not bad.
What do you do if the students walk outside of the class, like, because in our type of school, the principal will help you or someone will help you?
Yeah, often my teacher's aide would go and follow them and try and get them back in. If there was no hope, then it's better to have them out than disrupting the classroom, so they'd just have until recess to chill out and then come back in later. But, yeah.
So Jess indicated that English and maths before lunch, typically English before recess, then maths recess to lunch, and then integrated studies afterwards. Kids would go from the dorm, have breakfast, then have about 10 minutes worth of free play just outside the front of the school, and then line up like that before school. Often for the older kids, they'd had a bad morning or a bad night, or just didn't feel like going to school, they'd go off bush. And so the deputy at the time and myself would get the responsibility to go try and find them and herd them back in. Everyone carried radios with them, no mobile phone reception out there, and so often it would take us until recess to be able to find the kids and convince them to come back. And really that was because they were hungry and they wanted recess first. So all the core subjects were taught, plus COPE, which is the outdoor ed, Carolina Outdoor Personal Enrichment Program. Horticulture and farming type stuff, and we tried to integrate a lot of numeracy and literacy stuff into all these other subjects as well. So the students collected all the things they grew on the farm and sold it at a little market. We had up to about 300 chickens that we produced eggs and sold them in town. And students were responsible for collecting and cleaning and packing, and then figuring out how much money they were able to make from the eggs as well. Horsemanship program, swimming, so primary school I taught them swimming, and this is a couple of kids that just didn't feel like doing class today, they just laid down, which was a better option than running off. Jess mentioned that she went and took the kids in her class to Geraldton for surgery. It's not typically part of your job responsibility as a teacher. These kids required a whole lot of extra support that if we didn't do it, no one else would. So regularly at the beginning of each term when kids came back, and then a month or so in, there'd be nip treatments, treatments for scabies, treatments for boils, anything else? Ringworm all the time. Yeah. Dentists would come up a couple of times a year, optometrists would come up a couple of times a year. We had a federally funded nursing post at Carolina, based out of, the main centre was based out of Aluna, and yeah, we had a full-time nurse on site, which was basically an on-call GP for us, which was absolutely exceptional. ASWA, the Association of Independent Schools of Western Australia, providing consultants that came up, and if you want to say anything about that, Jess? Okay. Basically provided exceptional support. They funded Jess to do an early childhood leadership course, first couple of subjects for masters for free. They send the whole teaching staff up to Broome for PDs. Needless to say, there was exceptional support, which was one of the highlights for us. Yep. Okay. Cooking, regularly had people, just a whole lot of goodwill towards working with Aboriginal kids. One of the highlights for us was myself and one of the principals organised a ski trip. Took all the kids to Thredbo for a week and around Sydney and Canberra for another week, and Quicksilver sponsored us to the tune of about $30,000 worth of brand new gear, and they sent a pro to take the kids out snowboarding. It was absolutely exceptional how much support there was for working with Aboriginal kids. Critical to any success is just having fun with the kids. If you don't have fun, then they're not interested. And the other acronym, functional understanding, not necessary. Sometimes it's good just to do things for the sake of having fun, for no other purpose. Saturday nights were a highlight. Whenever it rained, we'd just cancel school and go out and play in the mud. Footy is about the most important thing. Regularly getting the kids off-site to de-stress. There would be a noticeable difference when there's just like an inbuilt pressure when they're confined in a space. Heaps of camps all the time. We were able to run some phenomenal camps for these kids. With the support was so exceptional. One of the biggest challenges for us was the separation, or the lack of separation between work and family. Because we lived on site, in the community, you just couldn't leave work behind. You're on radio call all the time. And my job particularly was 24/7. I went from just doing out the red stuff to managing the dorms. And yet there was never ever a dull moment. So this young fellow and his compatriots, they actually came and lived with us for 3 months while their family was away doing something else. And so pretty much all of Jess's class, she taught them, and most of them lived with us as well, which is pretty unique, but amazing. One of the reasons we stayed at Carolina for 4 years was Jess was able to have Chloe in the classroom, because just having babies around was so natural and appropriate. And there was so much support from the school as well as the Aboriginal staff to do that. That's Nana Jody, who Chloe is partially named after as well. Logistics, day-to-day type stuff. The local shop was 60 k's away. They only got fresh fruit and veggies delivered once a week, and then it was 5 or 6 days old. So we tried to grow as much of it ourselves as we could. Utilities were included. No mobile phone reception. We had satellite TV. Although we had NBN internet about 5 years ago, because the CEO of the community had that laid in as they were laying the cables up and down. So internet was always fantastic. Personal difficulties, highlights and reflections. That separation between work and family was one of the biggest challenges for us. And we didn't receive any cultural awareness training really when we went out there. It's kind of just thrown in the deep end. And the staff turnover accentuated that. So in Carolina's closed now, by the way, shut just a month or two ago. Low student numbers. But in the kind of last 7 years, there's been 7 different principals, 3 different CEOs. 7 different finance officers, and just staff turnover changes every year. So every time there's new administration, everything just starts again, which is a real shame. Summing up, if there's one take-home message from my 4 years at Carolundy, is this: Aboriginal people, they want to be recognised. They want you to recognise not just them by their name, but they want to be recognised as people who have inherent value and worth, not just as people, but people who have something valuable to contribute. So if you're working with Aboriginal kids and families, if you're able to just stop and say, okay, what can I actually learn from you? Rather than just me as the expert telling you what to learn. That's the biggest benefit of going out bush. So they got the opportunity to be the expert and teach us some stuff. If you can recognise the value in them and what they can contribute to growing you as a person and what they can contribute to making your life better, well, that's how you start to walk and learn together. And as you walk and learn together, that path that you journey on is respect. And I wish someone had been able to sum that up for me at the beginning of my time, rather than me having to figure that out for myself, really in reflection after I left Carolundy, because my pace of life was so fast and I was so focused on my job, I didn't have time to sit back and relax and learn and listen with the people as we sat under a tree or at the Sharon fire. So that's what I'd do differently if I went back. Yeah. One last thing. I think this is a really good quote. Karajini is about 8 hours north. It's my favourite place in the world. It's the local dialect up there. They've got a big sign there. Go with a clear, open and accepting spirit and the country will not treat you badly. I just think that's really a beautiful sentiment.
And a couple of litres of spare water.
And a couple of litres of spare water. Yeah.
Well, guys, what I loved about the presentation that we had today was how personal it was. Storytelling is a beautiful thing, and I think I learned a whole range of new things in that lecture today that sort of reinforced some of the things that I knew before, but now I know it better, and I suspect that some of you are the same as well. So thank you very much, both of you, Ben and Jess, for coming in, and we'd love to see your kids running around here. It's wonderful. I enjoy it. So don't feel bad about any of the noise made or anything like that. That's awesome. I did promise some exam advice, and I've been discussing this with a couple of people. There's some stress that's building up with people wondering what is going on with the examination. I didn't want to cut Ben short because it was too valuable, but I will be setting aside a solid 10 minutes in our next lecture that's early next week to start going through the exam with you, giving you some specific hints and information. So hopefully that will still give you a couple of weeks to prepare for that. So thank you very much. Sorry if anyone came just for the exam advice, but hopefully it was worth you coming anyway. So thanks again, everybody.
I'm happy for you to put that up on Moodle. There's notes under the slides, and you have a bit better look on the photo. But yeah, hopefully there's something more in the notes. It was pretty much. I knew that I've packed way too much in.
And of course, if there's a question, just come and speak to Ben and Jess.
We're happy to answer any questions.